Now back home here in Nigeria, residents of Lagos and Ogun States as well as the FCT in Abuja have had to work from home due to the lockdown ordered by President Muhammadu Buhari to curb the spread of COVID-19. But many believe that this has exposed the divisions between the digitally connected and the digitally excluded, as most transactions now have to be done online. Well, I'm being joined by the founder and chief narrative officer of Clio's Advisory UK, Mr. Ted Judd, to talk about the implications of this on the Nigerian workforce digital economy. Good afternoon and thanks for coming on the program. Well, let's begin this conversation with you telling us how bad is the digital exclusion in Africa and particularly Nigeria?
Well, there has been a huge increase in digital inclusion over the last 20 years. And in fact, in the last 5, it's nearly all come from mobile phones and mobile banking. And if you look in the case of Nigeria, you've got nearly 90% of the population with a mobile phone. And of course, if you look at the cities, it's over 100%. Several people have multiple SIM cards. The trouble is, it's all about your ability to get banking and services on that. And when it comes to internet, only around 40% of Nigerians have access to the internet. And nearly all of that is in the cities. And remember, it's not particularly affordable. To download 1 G of data is quite a lot. It costs quite a lot in terms of money in Nigeria. You compare that to South Africa, it's more like 60%. So when the coronavirus imposes these constraints on everyone and they try and reach for the digital services, just how digitally connected is what has a really big effect on how it will impact on you and your life.
Now, talking about the gig workers here in Nigeria now, how would they cope with the lockdown, especially if it has to be extended?
Well, I think it's really showing the division between different kinds of jobs. If you take professionals, it could be lawyers or bankers, consultants. A lot of them are used to working from a hotel lobby, sitting in a hotel room. So for them, even though their business might have been affected, they can deal with it digitally pretty easily. But if you are someone who is a boda driver, a keke driver, who's already reeling from the fact that they've banned this vehicle from certain parts of Lagos, suddenly your customers disappeared, you're in big trouble. On top of that, if you're someone like a cleaning lady, a plumber, a handyman, you can't work from home. And so I think really this is where we're going to see the divide, the digital divide, if you like. Those who actually are able to adapt quite easily because of their kind of job. But for the millions of people, if you think of all the people who sell on the streets, in Lagos, many times I've seen them going through the cars, which are stationary. If they're not allowed to do that, and there are many fewer cars, a lot of people really will have lost their livelihoods overnight.
Now, but who are the winners and the losers this period? As not everybody can actually work from home.
No, exactly. But I think, look, there can be winners, and they are the ones who have the digital connections and can adapt. If you think there are a lot of people who are market traders, they are no longer allowed to go into markets which are very densely packed, but they're using WhatsApp groups to make sales. They very often put their products online as their picture. And then people who used to work as, Uber taxi drivers or motorcycle drivers are now delivering goods or are now delivering medicines instead of people. So there are people who can adapt, have that digital connection, they can do so. And the entrepreneurial spirit is very strong in Nigeria.
Oh, but what about those who are digitally excluded now? Who will be the worst hit this period?
I think really, it's two things. One is the rural communities where is not very good coverage or where it's very expensive to get coverage from the internet. They could be cut off from any of the kind of digital services on offer now, particularly digital payments, because, very often rural communities run out of cash. So digital payments can get around that. But at the same time, rural communities generally have very strong cultural connections between everyone. There is a sense of resilience and community there on massive crises, and they find incredible ways to get through it. Where I think the real worry is for the informal settlements, the slums, if you like, the big cities. Because the fact is you have people very dense, and many of these people just don't know each other. Some of them have only been there for a very short time. So the idea of people trying to cram into buildings which are not designed to take loads of people at the same time and not allowed to, that is going to be the hardest hit, and is where the help has focused.
But what can be done to address this digital divide?
Well, I think the key thing is to try and get as many more people connected digitally as possible. And this means, trying to find blockages. So I've seen a lot of different campaigns out there to try and address it in different ways. UNESCO and Innovation for Policy have a program which is basically to stop viral or negative information going out in the press, which is incorrect, and to see people are properly informed. It's called #Don'tGoViral. And if people are properly informed, you can greatly reduce the spread of the disease. But we've also seen, for example, a lot of mobile phone companies have been cutting the cost of making certain payments. I know in Kenya, for example, any payment less than $10 is free. That means effectively we have free digital banking. We wanted that for years. And so I've seen in Nigeria, there are people banding together like they did during the Ebola crisis. Approaches out there, really all about trying to link people together through the mobile phone.
Well, what is your assessment of the innovations that we've seen so far being deployed to fight the COVID-19 crisis?
Well, I certainly think, the information campaigns that we've seen, such as the Don't Go Viral, I think is very effective. But also, I'm actually experimenting with something that was done during the Ebola outbreak, which is looking at call data records, or CDR. One of the ways to track an outbreak is to actually track the calls as they come into an emergency helpline. And you can do that live. You can suddenly see, hold on, we've got 7 or 8 calls in the same area. You can immediately bombard everyone in the area with text saying there's an outbreak in your area, do the following things. You can immediately trace the people and immediately start thinking about the other people you were with. You can even, if people have got GPS on their phones, literally track who they've been with. Follow that up. And if, as in the case of Ebola, people are very, very fast in big numbers to actually chase these up, you can prevent substantially the spread of the virus. So this is something that they're working on at the moment.